The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch UK Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, Harry Price here. Good evening. If there's nothing myself and everybody else enjoy here on the other side more is the sit back and relax and listen to Parasearch Radio with its paranormal news, views and reviews from across the UK and beyond. Make sure to find out more about them on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web, whatever they are, to keep up to date with all their broadcasts throughout the week. And I hope you enjoy them as much as we do over here. Hello? Is anybody there?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Concept Show. I'm your host, Paul Rook, and tonight Kerry has got the night off. I think it's absolutely disgusting. I don't get my night off. But anyway, joining me in the chat room, joining me in the studio even tonight, is a very good friend of mine, Vivian Powell.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. I want to know, why are you giving Kerry the night off? What's going on?
Do you know what? Her partner's going away for a little while on holiday without her.
I see.
It's like the last night she could spend with him before he goes off, and she just wanted that little bit of time. So
bless her. No,
I'll let her have the day off.
Oh no, you got to. You got to, really.
Absolutely. I mean, she's very patient with me going off here, there, and everywhere on the investigations, and she's stuck on the studio.
Oh, bless her. Well, you have to get her out a bit more.
Oh, we do. We intend to, and that actually leads us nice into the conversation that we're going to have tonight, Castle Rising, because we want to drag her off to Castle Rising. And I know we said about meeting up with you as well, and making a day of it, sort of thing. So yeah, Castle Rising. That's sort of the topic of the show tonight. What can you tell me about it?
What do you want to know? I don't know where to start.
Let's go with everything. Okay, so let's go into the history of it first before we go into the investigation side of things. Okay,
right. Before I even start with any of that, I've got to thank Norman Fahey, who was a curator at Castle Rising. So all my knowledge has been passed down, and I've learnt through him over the years. So without Norman Fahey, really, I wouldn't be here talking about Castle Rising. So I've got to get that out of the way first.
Absolutely. I've spoken to him a few times. We've even interviewed him on the shows. He's just a wealth of knowledge.
Oh, he is. And he still is, even to this day. I mean, he doesn't do too much paranormal-wise now. But behind the scenes, he's always helping me and guiding me. And he's one person that I really look up to.
Absolutely.
Being that he looked after Castle Rising for so many years, I got all my knowledge from him. So I can tell you that its origins began with, it's got a patron saint, which is Felix, if I remember rightly.
Okay.
And it's something to do with beavers. I can't remember all of it, but...
Interesting.
It's not a castle as such. Now, people get confused when they come to Castle Rising expecting to see this huge big castle standing on with a moat around it with water and what have you. I believe it started its origins as a place of worship, and it then turned into, people came in and built bits on. It's a fortified house. It has a moat. It has churches, the remnants of churches, 2 churches actually, and you see the main body of the house there as well, where its most famous resident, Queen Isabella, once resided. So it goes back a long way, and it also has ley lines across it. one huge ley line that runs right through the middle of it that people are not aware of, and I only found that out through having discussions and talking about the archaeology with Norman Fahey, and we got to the subject of ley lines, and then he just spat it out. He said, "Did I forget to tell you that?" I went, "Yeah," because I believe a lot of what goes on in there today, the ley lines have a lot to do with it. The history has a lot to do with it.
Okay. How do you think the ley lines affect what's going on there? In what way?
The ground has been fractured as well. I mean, it's had a lot happen to it over the years, and I know that the ley line had a lot to do. It's got believe it or not, and I can't believe I'm saying this to you, but it has an elemental there. Not in the main part of the building, but in the outer church. And I do know that Norman had to get in somebody to try and quiet the thing down, because it was attacking visitors during the day, not at night, during the day, and people coming away from there in a terrible state. So, yeah, he had to do something about it.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, we've come across the elementals before in other investigations. I think Kelvin and Hatch nuclear bunker.
Yeah,
is one where I've experienced one, but they are quite.
It had a lot of effect on the town, like town village. I'm going to call it a village. The village of Rising itself. I mean, all around it there was the forest and all the rest of it. It's a really lovely place to go and visit. So close to Sandringham, but the place Rising itself, in 1 year it saw 10 suicides, and Norman was saying to me, like, I attribute this to what was going on with the elemental, and he took a lot. He felt guilty, that I should have done something about it sooner, and it was something that we discussed in length. They were all young people that took their own lives, very close to the Castle Rising itself, not in the property, but very close to it. And 10 in 1 year, is that coincidence? Don't know. I mean,
no, that's quite a high number.
Yeah,
I must admit.
Yeah, but anyhow, it's a lovely place to visit. Don't let me put you off. So.
Oh no, to be fair, that just increases the reason I want to go there.
Yeah, I know that Lord Howard's, bless him, he doesn't allow paranormal groups to go in there anymore.
Okay.
But me saying this is, I would implore people, go during the day, because some of the best photographs that were ever taken were taken in broad daylight.
Yeah.
I mean, Norman had doors. He'd locked the doors and gone home, and the next day the doors are wide open. We've shut doors on investigations, and the doors are wide open. You hear the swishing of tail skirts. Like if you can imagine somebody wearing a long skirt made of very, very heavy material, like a bit like curtains.
Yeah,
that you had.
like the old like Henry VIII type Tudor dresses.
Yeah, really. I mean, you can feel the breeze, and you can hear them swishing as she walks past you. You can smell her perfume. This is all during the day.
That's excellent.
You can smell her perfume. I mean, when Queen Isabella is prevalent, there's a very distinct smell of, it sounds like Parma violets.
Okay.
Like violets. That's what the perfume is like. A good friend of mine was quite lucky enough. I mean, we was all there. We took a photograph. She was there with her dog. I'll have to send it to you, Paul. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a great place to go. I'm going to try and get a bit more about the history. Norman did send me loads and loads of stuff, but I can't find it all. It's all gone away. It's been a long time.
Dear. That's always the way, isn't it?
And I put me live on air on a radio, and I'll clam up. But outside of the radio, you never shut me up about it.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with that, though, is there? To be fair, no, I mean we definitely got Castle Rising on our to-do list.
Yeah.
So when my transport manager is available, we shall arrange a visit up to see you and the
Yeah, no,
castle.
definitely, definitely. And there's lots around that place as well. Um, there's St James's Church, which is not much left of St James's Church anymore,
Okay.
but there was a little village that just disappeared. Nobody knows why, and all that's left is the remnants of the church, and it's literally just down the road from Castle Rising. So, yeah,
So because
there's lots
it's
to
got
see.
it's got connections to other castles as well, hasn't it?
It
Because
has.
I know me and Richard visited a castle that one of my friends found on a holiday, and they were
Yeah.
like, "Oh, you've got to go, you've got to go." So me and Richard was like, "Right, okay, let's go." And I think it was Buckingham Castle.
Yes.
That was a really nice location. There's not much of it left,
No.
but when we turned up, there was actually a historian making a film documentary for the English heritage.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So he was telling us all about it and the links to Castle Rising, which I didn't know nothing about.
There's also another castle that's got links to it as well. Do you know, for the life of me, I've just gone blank. It's what you get after a long, hard day at work. I'm just trying to get Oakham Castle. I think that was the one that you was talking about. Um, it's got the link to Castle Rising. I know that Norman had researched that quite extensively, and he reconstructed it, through drawings and how the land was, the moat, and what the castle itself was like. I know he spent many, many years working on that. And again, he looks into ley lines and all sorts. He's the man's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see where I can't find it. If you want it
Always
quickly, you
way.
can't find it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like
No.
reading through Mark Manley's research, I think. His show
Do you know?
research.
The thing is,
560 pages of it. And
the thing is, though, he's an avid archaeologist as well.
yeah,
And
he said about that because I've always wanted to be an archaeologist ever since like being a kid. So history's always been something that I'm into.
yeah,
So when he said like that, it was like okay, and we was just talking, and yeah, you could quite easily talk to the guy for months, you know.
yeah. Right, I've got into Castle Rising now. While we were talking about the archaeology, I was going to mention that there was extensive archaeology done in and around Castle Rising, and they found a lot of old bones, and I think one of them was human. And I know that they were all crated up and kept in what they call the dungeon part of the castle. It's not, I don't see it as a dungeon, but it was the castle's dungeon.
Yeah.
And for many years, I know that paranormal investigators were going in there, doing their little investigation and not even knowing what was in the crates. But me being me, when I went in there with Norman, I said, "Oh, what we got in here then?" Opened it up. Oh, there's a load of old bones. And he was showing me them. And he said, "You want to have a look at this?" He showed me the human element of it. And I was just absolutely gobsmacked.
Yeah. Did he ever find out why that body was there?
I don't know. I sort of didn't go too much into it with him because you could tell he felt a bit uncomfortable with the fact that I found it, But yes,
Yeah.
I'm just looking in here to see where I can find about the true origins of Castle Rising. Just seeing what he's written.
So how long have you been like custodian? Is it like
He was custodian there for, oh God, I know, for a long time, about 10 to 15 years, something like that. He did a lot of, he went back into the history, delved right into it. And I know that he did a lot for the estate as well. So it wasn't just about looking after the buildings and what have you, but the estate of, for Lord Howard. He did a lot. It's not letting me go into any of his stuff. because he sent me so much.
I can imagine.
It's just trying to find it all.
Yeah, especially over that period of time. It's like, I'm sure there's loads.
He was talking about, I can see it here. So just chat amongst yourself, Paul. I'll just just read up.
Yeah, I'd talk amongst myself. That's amusing, that is. No, I'm no good at that. That's why I always get someone on with me.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So what about your experiences then at Castle Rising? Because you've obviously investigated it with Norman around and stuff. So what have you found there?
Well, I know that when I was with Norman, and this was quite prevalent, and when he appeared on Taps, it happened on the program. I think you can still see it on YouTube or somewhere. You can still see that episode with Ghost Hunters International or something. But when he sat in the dungeon, I mean, I sat in there many times with him on our own, just me and him, lights turned off, and you can see, and they've got it on camera, the little sparkly flashes and pinpricks of light that happen just all around Norman. It only seems to happen when Norman's in there, though. If you take Norman out of the dungeon and sit there on your own, it doesn't happen. Put Norman back in, they're back again. It was quite amazing I saw it on the TV because he made me watch, the TV program, look at this, and now compare it to what you experienced it. And I physically saw that myself with Norman. And that was a strange phenomenon because I've never seen that around anyone. In all my years as a paranormal investigator, I have never witnessed anything like that. And it wasn't scary. It wasn't... there was no foreboding atmosphere with it. It was really genuinely lovely and uplifting.
Have you ever come up with a theory of what it could have been?
Well, I don't know. I think they know Norman in there, you see. It sounds really weird, but the ghosts actually know him.
Yeah.
So they've seen him over every day over so many years. And I wonder if they're just reacting to him. I don't know. But... They honestly, how can I explain it? One day, Norman, I mean, he spoke to me about it on the telephone. He said, "You never guess what's happened to me." And I went, "What?" He says, "Well, I locked up because I was the last one there, and I locked up, made sure everything was secure before I went home. I was there first thing in the morning, the only one in with the key to open up in the morning, and there were white roses found at the bottom of the main stairs at Castle Rising, like from nowhere. Two white roses." I said, "Well, they've given you a present." And he took it to heart. He said, "That's the most amazing thing I've ever been given." And I'm thinking, "You're sad so-and-so, but no one could get in. No one can throw the roses in or over the wall. You have to have keys to get in to be able to place them where they were. And to this day, we do not know where these roses came from."
That's interesting.
That was quite good. He's been pushed down the stairs. I've been pushed down the stairs. And there's a lot of stairs to be pushed down. I was lucky that I didn't go. On my Facebook wall, you'll see my picture, and I'm actually sitting on the bottom part of those stairs, actually. At the top, there's a very big, heavy door. But as you sort of come through the heavy door, as you start to walk down the stairs, I felt hands behind me, and you lose your footing. It's a proper shove as well. But it's happened to him countless of times. It's happened to me once or twice, and people think I'm mad when I say, "Oh, somebody's just trying to push me down the stairs," and they go, "Oh, okay, then," and they carry on with what they're doing. I'm like, "No, actually, somebody did try and push me down the stairs."
It's probably Norman. Get out.
But they've got a gatehouse that you walk through as you sort of walk up the pathway to the main fortified building.
Yeah.
And in that gatehouse, there was a couple of photographs taken. One, it was one of Norman's friends that was there with Norman. There's a photograph of somebody. You can't really see the somebody, but you can see the horse very clearly riding through the gatehouse. And he was very excited about that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So, in my infinite wisdom, I decided I'm going to go out and investigate the gatehouse.
Yeah.
And being a bunch of girls not paying much attention and just, having a little gossip as you do, standing in the middle of the gatehouse. There was an occasion when it was as though somebody barged through a group of us. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
We were rushed, and yet there was nobody there. We went flying, but there's nobody there. And I looked at my friend at the time, and she looked at me, and you know what she said? She said, "That I'm going," and she legged it. She wasn't hanging around.
Oh, dear.
But the whole area is so active. I mean, and it's steeped in history. I mean, Queen Isabella, though she's depicted to be this nasty she-wolf princess or whatever it is, but she's not. She actually got a raw deal, to be quite honest. I mean, she wasn't English for a start.
Okay.
They were saying that she killed got her husband murdered and all this sort of thing, but actually she wasn't. She's just a survivor, a strong woman.
Yeah.
And she did what she had to do in a time where you think back to the medieval days. Women were second-class citizens, whether you liked it or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, women had to fight and jostle for position, and if you were foreign, it made it even worse. So. Yeah, no, I have thoroughly 100% love Queen Isabella, love Castle Rising, knowing that was her home as well.
Yeah.
And she stood for a lot of good things, that people in history seem to have forgotten. But not only that, I mean, going back even further still, like into the history of Castle Rising, I mean, it started off as a monastery, a small little church area, So St. Felix was supposed to have come from, I think it's the Norfolk area into Castle Rising, Norwich, from round there into Castle Rising. And he was bought there by standing on the back of beavers, believe this or not.
Okay.
A lot of it is myth and mystery, but it's the patron saint because he put the first actual building there, and he was a monk, and it sort of grew and grew and grew from there. But St. Felix as well, especially around this area, he has a couple of churches designated to him, and there are also references to Castle Rising in stained glass windows and things about St. Felix. So yeah, he must have been somebody fairly important in his day, So,
especially if he's built the original castle.
Yeah.
He would have been quite prominent in the town or village or whatever.
And I think he was given a sum of money from, now I can't even remember his name. Is it the Just Something family? Sorry, I'm so tired.
No, it's okay.
But yeah, he was given a purse of money, and that helped. I mean, because everything, if you think about it, in those days, was done on donations and goodwill gestures from villages. But he was given a purse of money, which actually started this whole thing off, and he started building his church, and from it, Castle Rising, as you see today. But it's actually not a castle; it's more of a fortified house. It sits on a moated area, which gives it that castle feeling, But yeah, it's a big part of British history as well that people don't realise,
Absolutely. I mean, it does give the appearance of like a castle keep.
Yeah. I mean, it has the gatehouse. It would have had portcullises there at some stage to keep undesirables out. I mean, Lord Howard, bless him, he's tried to keep it and update it, and it's had a few, not restorations, I wouldn't call it that, but he's tried to keep it sort of looking nice for the public, and he does what he can. I know that not a lot of people realise this, but in Castle Rising, along some of the stonework, if you look up, there are faces of cats. There's only a
Okay.
few like little round faces of cats, but they're particularly you've got the what I call the roses. The English roses are up there, but these cats were put there, and they go back to the day of Queen Isabella because she liked cats. They
Okay.
adorned the castle with these cats to look down on her, smiling at her, to keep her happy. But it's
It
funny because she had dogs as well.
yeah. Is it just like a decoration stone?
It is a decoration stone,
Okay.
but
So it's not like one of
um,
those gargoyle type things.
no, it's
No.
nothing like a gargoyle. It's like a little round face, if you like, but done in the
Mm.
style of a cat. Um, but when you go there, and unless you knew where to look, I don't suppose you would notice the cats looking down at you. But they were there for Queen Isabella.
Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
lot of buildings like that. They've got all sorts of decoration on them, and I mean, I wrote a blog a little while back about gargoyles on the origins of them, and there are like some designers quite recently have put like gargoyles of Darth Vader's face on one of them.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a bit. I've actually wrote about it in my blog. I can't remember off the top of my head what building it was, but as a designer, he thought it'd be quite amusing to put Darth Vader as a gargoyle. I think there was Gizmo, the Gremlin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's one like that as well. Got quite a few of them.
No.
That's why I know like gargoyles are obviously different shapes as well. So it's not all just the
Well, we have some
goblin type things,
gargoyles.
but
No, we have some gargoyles in Cambridge actually.
yeah,
When you go there and you're doing your shopping, and you got the colleges there that are very very old. But when you're out and doing your shopping, amidst the high street, when you look up, there you've got the old buildings there. You'll see the gargoyles. They
yeah.
look more like dragons, sort of coming over the street, looking down at everybody.
But
You
that's
know,
it. I mean, although obviously they had that's like an origin story going back into France, and that's why they had
yeah,
like the dragon type features. But yeah, I mean there was others as well, like dogs, cats, horses, and various
yeah.
other animals and stuff. So it isn't just the traditional goblin style.
No, and I know that some of the churches around here, I mean, we've got some fantastic abbey. Well, there's one in particular that survived I can't even say the word demolition of the monasteries with King Henry VIII
Okay, yep,
because of its because of where it was. It wasn't on a little island. It was forgotten about, and it survived, but it's since caught fire and other bits and pieces. But the gargoyles are still there. You can still see the face. They would draw or carve pictures of monks into stone and put them up on the walls and things like that.
yeah,
And again, like I can imagine, the same with Castle Rising. They would have had statues carved into stone, and it would have been so ornate inside, but over time, and kings and queens destroying each other's properties and whatnot, and it's all gone.
yeah.
But
So
there are still there's still features within Castle Rising itself that you can see, like the kitchen area. The kitchen and the stove is still there. The well was amazing. In the centre of the building, so you can still see the well. I do believe that I'm sure Norman told me at one point they had somebody come with some high-powered magnets just to search the bottom and see if there was anything in there.
did they find anything?
I think they got coins, some old coins, but nothing of great value or significance.
Yeah,
But they did get something out of the well. But
that's
the
good.
bones. I mean, the bones. Well, Norman was telling him, it showed him what they were eating while they were there, because a lot of them were animal bones.
Yeah.
Obviously, for human consumption, they were growing their own crops and rearing cattle and what have you on the property. So it was quite self-sufficient. So they could have closed their doors to oncoming armies and whatever, and survive for months and months and months.
Yeah.
The history there is absolutely superb. So
was it ever fortified, or was
it
it
was.
just...
It's a fortified. Okay. Yeah, it was a fortified house. It was never a castle as such. As I said, it started its life as a church, built by St. Felix, and he came and went, and then others came in and added to the church. Then they decided they didn't want that church; they wanted another church, just a short way away from it. So a second church was built. The house was built there, and then people were adding on to the house and adding on, and it's a fortified house. Basically now.
So what is it now? Is it just a derelict ruin, or is it a museum now?
It's not a derelict ruin as such. It is ruin. There's some areas there that, I mean, you can go and see the site of the original church. That is ruin. But it has all the storyboards and all the history there for you to read about that. Yeah. There is the site of the other church where, and I'll tell you a funny story about that, just quickly.
Okay, go for it.
So I took my team in there a few years ago, and I have civil servants on my team.
Yeah.
And one of them, a big burly prison officer who doesn't believe in ghosts, came on an investigation there with Norman Fahey. Last ditched attempt. He wanted to see something so badly.
Yeah.
So he came away from the group and he went outside, just have a breather. And in his head, he was saying, if they really are truly ghosts that exist, you need to show yourself to me now, or I'm going to give this up. He was literally on the verge of coming away from the paranormal completely.
Yeah.
And he said he looked at the site of the second church, which is ruin, and he saw in brilliant white light the figure of a person. Now, it wasn't female, it was male, but you could see the outline of the head, the shoulders, the arms by the side. He said, and it was just there in front of me. And he said, because he came upstairs and he couldn't talk. He just couldn't talk. And when we did get it out of him, he said, Viv, I blinked my eyes. He said, and the thing was still there. He said, and I tried to stare at it hard. Like, am I imagining it? He said, I blinked again and it was gone. But it was as though it was there answering his plea, if you like. Like, if you really do it, are there, you better show yourself to me or I'm jacking this in. And it did. How amazing is that? And it happened at Castle Rising.
It is,
outside.
Absolutely.
Outside.
Yeah.
Inside, you'll hear the dogs howling. Norman says that he's seen it, heard it on many occasions, and we believe that they're Isabella's dogs.
Okay.
You hear things moving around in there. If you speak French, she seems to like that for some reason. I mean, Norman would go in there and just talk to them, just out of courtesy, as though they were normal people like me and you. But outside the grounds of Castle Rising, out on the main road, there was a picture taken of a ghostly dog, and it turned out it was one of the neighbours' dogs that sadly passed away. Just had nipped out for a wee, it goes.
As you do.
Yeah,
took yourself out for a walk.
Yeah, I mean, the place Rising itself is superb. I mean, there's also a hospital connected to Castle Rising itself. Okay. A lot of people don't know about it. It's a private residence for elderly people now, but things have been seen in there. There's some historic items and documents that are stored there. I mean, I think Lord Howard has had boards and made up. So when you stand in the White Room, for example, it explains to you what the White Room is, why it's the White Room, the stories behind that. The kitchen areas, he's got all those labelled up. It's brilliant. You can buy books in the gift shop if you want to. But no, you go in there, even if you was just to walk around, there's plenty of boards up there explaining all the history and what have you. So if you're lucky enough to get hold of Norman to give you a personal tour, now that's something.
Oh, that would be absolutely amazing, actually. I've not actually met the guy, but I've heard loads of good things about him. And I've spoken to him and countless times. And he's just a wealth of knowledge. And I could pick his brains all day.
The thing is, though, he's I've been quite spoilt, though, Paul, because being that I've got a good friend in Norman and, going up there to see him, we jumped in the car one day from Castle Rising. He took me to a burial mound that is undisturbed. It is protected. You can't walk over it easily because the ground is not great. But to stand there and see this burial ground amongst, believe it or not, pig farms nearby, it's just so amazing. I mean, he knows all the secret places to go, history. Honestly, the guy's one in a million. Honestly,
and he's passed all that over to you now.
Well, yes. I mean, he's given me books and all sorts, and I just don't even know where to begin. To be honest, I'm not a historian. I love history.
Yep.
I'm not a historian. I've had some stuff happen to me recently that sort of knocked me for six as a paranormal investigator. You're gonna hear about it sooner or later at some point.
Yeah.
But I'm taking things a little bit slowly at the minute.
Yeah.
And he's there. He's always on the other end of the phone, just jeering me up. So come on, Vivian, you can do it. Come on, pick yourself up, dust yourself down. What are we doing next? He's like
That's
that,
it.
So.
Yep. Have yourself a nice clear goal to aim for.
Yeah. I mean, if there ever was a mentor in the paranormal, it would be him, Norman Fahey.
Yeah.
For me. It's not just the paranormal investigating and that side of things, but it's the history side. He goes into the history, the land. He talks about the people, the times, the architecture. He talks about the building itself. He's even had me doing psychometry on walls of churches. How you wouldn't even think about doing anything like that. We did that in the chapel of Castle Rising, and that was an experience. What do you feel?
What sort of things did you pick up on?
Well, I honestly, you're going to laugh if I told you, but he didn't tell me about the elemental.
Yep.
So we went down there. He says, well, I want you to come to this end of the chat. I went, okay, then. He said, right, just put your hand on the wall here. And then he darted away very quickly. I thought, crazy little bugger, what's he running over there for?
Yeah.
But anyway, I soon realised what was going on. I felt sick, headaches. It just looked like a little green goblin sitting in the corner, And I'm thinking, I'm just imagining it. I'm just ignoring it. He's going, no, Viv, come on, tell me what's going on, what you're seeing, what's happening.
From a distance, though, yeah?
Yeah. And I said to him, well, there's a little green goblin in the corner. And I said it and laughed. And he went, you're joking. I'm going, what? What have you not told me? But, yeah, and then he described what was going on. And it just presented itself to me as a little green goblin, but it's not a green goblin. You would understand what I'm talking about, wouldn't you?
Exactly, and I'm assuming it's the elemental.
It is, yeah. It's the energy and what was coming through, and that was how I was perceiving it. Like, it's mischievous, it's not very nice. Don't piss it off, So it was like that.
That makes sense. We've spoken about elementals before, and said that it sort of comes to you as an image.
Yeah. But it's not it.
You would link to it, sort of thing. Because again, going back to the Kelvin and Hatch thing, we picked up on an elemental, and we actually caught some video footage that I don't have access to, sadly, but it is on YouTube, I believe. And to me, it just looks like a face behind a curtain.
Really?
But it's very much Oriental in looks. Yeah.
Right.
But that's just sort of how it looks to me. Others have said it's just a normal face, and there's been lots of other theories out there of what it could have been, but one's really.
It's surprising you said that, because I think back in 2011, I went to Kelvin Hatch, and a photograph was taken. With the bunk beds, the area where you can sleep for the night. So we were just doing a walkthrough and taking photographs. And when we reviewed the photographs, there was a picture of a little girl. She looks about, I would say, from the age of about 4, 5 years old.
Mm.
And it's as though she's hovering in midair between bunk beds, but her head's not there.
Okay.
I questioned it for a long time, because why would this little girl be in a place like Kelvedon Hatch?
Yeah.
You know, and I said, well, I need to go back and I need to do this a bit more, and I need to look at the cameras properly, and, you know, you dismissed it. I wish I never did that. I wish I went back sooner rather than later to go and have a look at that again, but never got her again.
Yeah.
So maybe she was with someone.
Yeah, I mean, I would have thought that she'd either be with someone or it was that elemental.
Could have been. But to have no head.
Yeah, that is a bit of a strange one, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Maybe it was just being naughty. I don't know. They do naughty things, don't they?
So is the Green Goblin thing the only strange thing you've experienced at Castle Rising?
We recorded the dog whining and whinging and yapping.
Yeah.
There's a photograph of Queen Isabella herself in all her glory, wearing her beautiful, beautiful dress.
Wow.
And at her feet you can see 2 dogs. And that picture was taken in broad daylight in the White Room using an infrared camera. Just a stills, infrared camera.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful picture because you can't see her features of her face, but you can see her headdress. You can see she's got necklaces on that sit quite low. She has one of these belts that come just around her waist, and then it hangs literally down to near enough the floor. Yeah. You can make all these items out. You can even see detail on her dress. But when you look at this picture, it's still transparent. You can see right through her, and you can see there's us lot sitting on the floor, trying to invent, because we're not stand there. We have to sit down on the floor,
Absolutely, yeah.
But you can see us sitting on the floor, so you can see us through her. It's an amazing picture, and I think it was just lucky being in the right place at the right time. A lot of investigators, they have to do it at night because there's less.
Yeah.
Pollution, noise pollution and all the rest of it. I say you're missing a treat. Go and do them during the day.
Absolutely.
These places where you can't get in to investigate, they'll let you in as a visitor. Take your infrared camera.
Yeah.
Do a little thing as you're walking around, because you will be surprised what you pick up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is why me and Richard do the road trips at odd weekends. We've been to some fantastic places that we wouldn't really normally go to. We went to Bury St Edmunds and had a walk around the Abbey ruins there. Now that would be closed off at night, so you wouldn't be able to investigate it. But it's still, you can still pick up on the energies that are there. Yeah,
I mean people as well. People get hung up on the actual buildings itself.
Yeah.
And I use an excuse like, for an example, Ruffham Control Tower is a perfect example. They'll all they'll concentrate their efforts on the control tower and the outbuildings, but they actually won't walk out on the field. Now, I've been out on the field just when it was getting dark, so you had a beautiful sunset, and there was 3 of us. There was 3 of us just standing there having a sneaky cigarette and having a chat about, I don't know, it was people that were there at the time. Nice stuff, nothing bad. And while the 2 boys were chatting, I looked on the floor at our shadows. There was 3 of us, yet there were 4 shadows of.
Yeah.
And when I said to the guys, like, do you want to have a look on the floor and count how many shadows? And when they realised, you just see this one shadow just shoot off into nowhere. It was mayhem. I mean, they tried to chase it and left me standing there because I'm a little old lady, like, with her fags hanging out of her mouth, knackered, trying to catch up with them, but it just sort of proved a point that, I said, come on, let's go out on the field, let's go for a walk and we'll have a fag, and just get them away. So, I mean, they're all very good friends, but one of them peed the other one off or something like that. So come on,
Yeah.
let's all go out and let's talk about it and we'll go for a walk. And for that to happen, I mean, they forgot what they were arguing about at that point, and they were into, did you see that? Did you see that? Where did it go? And but they were into the ghost hunt again, you know.
Yeah.
But it's something that I think paranormal investigators and ghost hunters today, they're missing what I call crucial points in history where hauntings happen. Doesn't have to happen in a building. You know,
Yeah,
come
that's
outside
right.
of the building, have a look on the property. What was on the property? Look into the history. You can't call yourself a paranormal investigator if you're not investigating the history.
No, that's right.
But bottom
And I
line,
think a lot of, as you said, yeah, a lot of people do miss things. But I think with like going on people's events and stuff, it's almost like this area you're investigating for an hour, then you've got to move to this area for another hour. And you know, you've got to rotate the groups around and stuff. So you don't
do you
always
know?
get time.
Do you know? I actually did that with. I'm going to give her a plug now. I actually did that with Haunted Happenings,
Yep.
and I went to investigate the London tombs.
Okay.
Now, I did say to, I think it was Hazel at the time, that we're a paranormal team in our own right. We don't want to be put with public. We just want to come along and enjoy it for what it is and have a bit of fun ourselves. But we don't want to be put in with your public. And bless her, what she did was she made sure that there was a gap between us and the public. So as you're moving around, there was no one ever in the next room. They were away from us.
Yeah.
They did that for us, and honestly, we had such a good time. I mean, it wasn't a serious investigation. It was a bit of tongue-in-cheek stuff. We did catch a few bits in there which were interesting. We had fun with the public on breaks.
Yeah.
We had a laugh ourselves. You know, we let our hair down because it wasn't a serious investigation, and we did enjoy it. But we saw it for what it was as a team.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a chance for us to use some equipment that we purchased back then, never used before, just get to know it, get to grips with it, and we used it there. So they're not all bad. I mean, they do have their uses, but again, if you've got public screaming and driving themselves into a frenzy, because what they want is the show.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I mean, we turned up with our shirts and that was it. They wanted to know who we were, which, you know, we can't discuss it. You know, it was top secret stuff, you know, just so they would leave us alone. But towards the end, I think we took one or two of our public with us, you know, because they were interested.
Yeah. I must admit, I mean, that's how I run my events when we go out with Phoenix Paranormal. I mean, if the location's big and a paranormal team do approach me, I tend to give them a bit of a discount if there's a group booking, and then I will literally say, right, okay, well, you've got this area to investigate for the first hour and a half or whatever, but as long as you're happy to move around with the groups, we'll sort of keep you away from the public.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, you know, and let them do their own thing. Or, you know, we'll give them like a member of staff just for our insurance purposes, but the member of staff will just sit back and let them get on with it. You know, it's their investigation at the end of the day. That's how we look at it. Or unless they want them to get involved as well, we're quite happy to do that. We do like a bit of paranormal investigating, but you know, we do that as well. So it's always good to work with other teams. I find.
I do. I mean, and as well, like I go back to the day we went with Haunted Happenings. I mean, we had to have a member of our staff come with us, and it was fine because he was a very nice fella. I think it was his first ever investigation working for them, and I think he was a bit sort of put out of his depth, really, because he was put with the paranormal team. And I think you can imagine the talk. Oh, you won't have to do much. Just stand there and just make sure that they don't misbehave or wreck the exhibits or whatever. You know, you can imagine that talk happening. But he was so flabbergasted with what we were doing. He was asking us the questions. How does this work? What are you doing there? What's that? How does that work then? What does this mean?
I must admit, the funniest tour I've ever had, it wasn't a paranormal one, but it was a Fort Amherst. They had like a fun day thing down there. and we had this old fella giving a tour of the tunnel system. Have you been there?
No, I haven't.
Okay, as you go in, you've got like the World War II bit where they would, like the local government or whatever, would just sit in there, man the phones for the ambulances, fire service, and all that.
Yeah.
Then you've got like the bunk rooms, and then you've got this area, and it's called the Dean's Hole.
Right.
And I think what it was is just a way of getting supplies into the tunnels from above.
Yeah.
So they'd pass down barrels of gunpowder and all that sort of stuff during the period it was used. And someone said to him, could you tell us why it was called the Dean's Hole?
Mm-hmm.
And he just turned around and straight face, he just said, it's called the Dean's Hole because it just is.
Okay.
Okay. And I just turned around at that point and I just said, oh, well, I think it's called the Dean's Hole because Dean found it. Simple.
yeah. You'd make something up, wouldn't you?
Exactly, But no, he just come out of it just because it is. Okay, fair enough.
Oh.
But that has to be the best tour. But I do like that location as well, particularly the gatehouse to that venue, which you have to pay extra for, because I think the tunnels are done to death. They're just overworked with the paranormal field all the time. The gatehouse is the one that always gets left out, and I think it's the most active place there now.
Well, it's a bit to a degree. I mean, we were lucky that Castle Rising wasn't done to death, but it had a lot of investigations over the years. And you know what? I think, and to a degree, I can understand why Lord Howard is saying enough now, because I think like when people were coming in, they were disrespecting the place. I mean, at one point, there were investigators going in there, doing their drugs, not interested in having a ghost hunt or doing any of that. Yeah. All they were interested in was disappearing down the moat, smoking their drugs, doing whatever, and coming back an absolute wreck. There were lots of factors that went into the ghost hunts there because they've got a gamekeeper with a shotgun. Yeah. So when a ghost hunt happens, he's notified. The local police are notified as well. So the gamekeeper stays at home, puts his gun away, enjoys a nice jolly old evening in front of the telly box and putting his feet up, Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of factors that went in, but I think as well they did have some problems with, let's say, some visitors to the country. Yeah. And they were causing a lot of vandalism towards Castle Rising. I think at one point, Lord Howard said, "No, I've had enough. Just shut up shop. I'm not letting anybody else in." But because of knowing Norman and he has the keys, we would go in. I was so spoiled. That man really did spoil me.
It's an English heritage site as well now, isn't it?
Yes and no. It's solely owned by. It's part of the Howard estate. It's owned by Lord Howard. Yeah. English Heritage are involved. They do have some input into it because of the importance of the structure. So they are involved with it. It is classed as a heritage site, but it's still owned by It's still owned by the man himself.
Cool. And do you have to pay to get into the place?
You do. And I think it's about £4. It's not expensive, £4 per person. There's no time limit. You can stay there as long as you want. You could take a picnic and sit in the moat, on the banks of the moat, if that's what you want to do. But I wouldn't because, it's dry. It's a dry moat. Okay. So, but I know that they have, they did have because you've got lots of wildlife around there. So you got wasps that were nesting. There was a big wasp's nest one year in the moat. Some child came across it and was stung quite badly, but what parent allows their children to play with wasps, I don't know. So there you go. You also have grass snakes and things like that round there. There are birds that nest. I think last time I was there was some house martins that got into the brickworks.
Okay, yeah.
Actually inside. And Yeah, not a lot you can really do about that, but I mean, I like nature as well, so I was quite fascinated seeing the birds inside the bricks and
Yeah,
bat. There is a problem. Not it's not a problem because bats are not a problem, but for a paranormal investigator, bats are problems.
yeah, I've encountered quite a few of those in my time.
But they have bats in and around the castle, which I absolutely love. A couple of times they did fly very close to my face and, scared the bejesus out of me.
Yeah,
I thought Isabella had got a bit too close to me, but no, it wasn't. It was a bat.
oh dear,
But
cool.
yeah, no, the walkways. I mean, even if you just go for a day out, seriously, if you're a paranormal investigator, take your camera. Take
Yeah,
your camera. You'll be surprised what you'll find, and all the best stuff there at Castle Rising has been caught during the day.
absolutely, and I think that does reinforce the fact that you don't have to do investigations at night.
No, I mean, don't forget where it is as well. I mean, you've got the Sandringham Estate is right on your doorstep.
Yeah,
So, um, if you're brave enough to go around there, well, as long as you don't trespass, I suppose. That area there is pretty old as well.
yeah, definitely. Sounds good.
Um,
But we'll
yeah.
definitely have to do a road trip up there, and we'll do live feeds as well from it as well,
Oh
so people
yeah.
can, yeah,
Well,
so people can
we've
look at it.
well where I live, Paul, you're going to be thoroughly spoiled because it's not just the old and ancient. We also have a couple of air bases here.
Excellent.
I won't say too much. We also have some abbeys and abbey ruins. Um, One of my very first full apparitions that I caught was at one of these abbeys. So I'll
Yep.
take you there. The history of that abbey is absolutely amazing.
Brilliant.
And, I live in Cromwell's country.
Yeah.
So we have Oliver Cromwell's house. There's two houses. He's also connected to the college in Cambridge where he helped establish. We also have the Samuel Pepys Library up here with some of his own works in it. So,
Kerry, I love that.
well, is Kerry coming, or is what's she going to be doing?
Well, no, Kerry did say that she's going to get out of the house more for like next year, so we'll definitely be dragging her out and about to places, do
Yeah,
more live feeds. She needs to come and experience some of these places with us.
maybe do a show from one of these places.
Absolutely, it's something that we can do. I mean, we're looking at a lot of changes for the new year anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm busy working behind the scenes for that at the moment, as well as putting out other shows.
Is there
For
anything you can tell your listeners while you're?
oh, I don't know. Well, we're looking at refreshing the look of Parasearch. That's sort of what's going on behind the scenes at the moment, and I was discussing with Richard the other day about expanding some of the road trips that we do to incorporate other things in with it. So we could give more live feeds,
Yeah,
more information, more knowledge sharing, all that sort of stuff. So
a bit like a roving reporter.
absolutely, we're definitely looking at that. And we've already started that with like Codner Castle, the Haunted Antiques Research Centre, and other places. I think in a couple of weeks we're going to the Poltergeist House.
Yeah.
So we're going to these places. We're meeting new people. We'll interview the owners and stuff like that. So yeah,
I need to tell you something, Paul, about Codner Castle. It's quite important.
okay.
So, we did that little
Yes.
experiment that's taken people by storm.
Yeah.
Well, I've been at work and I was talking to an IT specialist at work.
Yeah.
Now, not putting them down, they're lovely guys, and I call them the geeks because they really are geeks.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool.
Everything about electronics and what goes on behind the scenes in your phone. Anyhow, I asked the question, and you know what I'm talking about, Paul.
Yeah.
Could there have been any interference in any way, shape, or form? absolutely not was the response I got.
Absolutely. I've actually spoke to Samsung as well about that phone call to the spirits. And even they said there's no way you could get interference. So when we go back to Codner, we are going to literally investigate and rip it to shreds.
Right, he's given me an experiment, which I'll talk to you off air about.
Okay.
But he started talking about going into the quantum physics side of what happened with the phones on that particular night. And then he started talking about wormholes and all sorts. I think, well, now you're getting too much for me. And I said, let's end this there. I said, but tell me about this extra experiment. So he's outlined an experiment that you could try when you go back there.
Fantastic.
And it will also sort of either put credence to what happened that night, or it will rip it apart.
That's what we want. We want to try and make it so watertight that no one can explain it. So yeah, that's what we're going to go back for, and we will be doing a show on it. So everyone that's listening and they're thinking, what the hell are they going on about? There will be a show on it. We'll do live feeds as well from Codner Castle.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll all find out about it. So it's all something to look forward to. Absolutely.
Maybe you could go live with the experiment that I'll give you when we're alone, when we've got no listeners.
Absolutely cool. Well, on that note, we've come to the end of the show. We've given everybody an hour.
Have we?
Yeah, it's gone so quick.
Oh my God, I could talk to you for hours, Paul. What's going on?
We often do, I think, really, don't we? So
don't tell Kerry.
No, won't say anything. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me on the show tonight.
Thank you for having me, Paul.
No problem, anytime. It's always a pleasure talking to you anyway. I want to thank everyone in the chat room, and yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, just say goodbye. That's it.
Goodbye. Take care.
Goodbye, and see you all next week on the Paranormal Concept Show. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.